In the summer of 1981, two rock titans clash in a recording studio tucked away at the foot of the Swiss Alps to create extemporaneous magic. The truly unbelievable story of Under Pressure by Queen with David Bowie, next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. I tell you what, if you want to be a part of the music community that curates the best of the rock and roll era through interview, through stories, through history, subscribe below right now. Click the bell to know when our new videos are out. We do this virtually every day. To get even more content and to become an insider beyond the interview, make sure to check us out on Patreon. Now it's time for another edition of Number One in Our Hearts, where we go behind a song that was so phenomenal, it should have been a number one hit on the Hot 100, but for reasons that we talk about in this commentary, it came up short. We also talk about why it's so beloved. You know, whenever you have two legends that come together for a song or two, it can be life-changing. I mean, George Michael and Aretha Franklin on the number one hit, I Knew You Were Waiting for Me. Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson with the number one hit, Say, Say, Say. Just look at my face, these tears ain't drying. Tom Petty and Stevie Nicks on their top 5 hits, Stop Dragging My Heart Around. I mean, that's just to name a few. When fabulous Freddie Mercury of Queen and the Thin White Duke himself, David Bowie, recorded Under Pressure together, it was more than life-changing. It was, or rather is, one of the greatest songs ever put to tape, one of my favorites ever. It's one of those no-brainer number one hits, but guess what? In America, it barely scraped the top 30, and some people know the song that sampled it better than the original. So let's get into it. Under Pressure by Queen with David Bowie. I mean, if you don't recall the song by its title, you definitely will know it when you hear the tune's famous melodic pluck. The story of how this irresistible riff and the complete track was invented is about as amusing and bizarre as they come. So apparently there was no plan. There was no lyric sheet, no arrangement, really no structure of any kind on the wondrous night that it was recorded in July of 1981. I mean, the whole thing happened unexpectedly on a substance-induced evening in Montreux, Switzerland, a sleepy resort town on the shoreline of Lake Geneva at the base of the Swiss Alps. So I'll set the stage for us. The four members of Queen, they were in Montreux working on material for a new album, and they loved everything about Montreux, so much so that they actually bought Mountain Recording Studios in Montreux in '79, and they made it their home away from home. But by sheer coincidence, David Bowie was nearby to record the title track for the movie Cat People, and when Bowie heard Freddie and the guys were basically next door, he dropped in to say hello and hang out a bit, and he also brought a bounteous supply of cocaine with him to share with his friends. With Bowie in the house and the intoxicants flowing steadily, the all-star coterie decided to get creative. The band asked David to do background vocals for a song titled Cool Cat, but they scrapped the session because Bowie was unhappy with this performance. So the guys started to mess around. They're playing cover tunes, including Bowie's original composition, All the Young Dudes. It was famously cut by Mott the Hoople. And then David got bored, bemusing to his friends, "This is stupid, let's just write one." That's his exact quote, "Let's just write one." Wise words that we're all eternally grateful were said. So everyone in the studio, is amped up in more ways than one, and this is where the impromptu encounter turns inescapably bizarre. Bowie had a concept in his head, but there was no vocal, no lyrics, no title, no clue as to what the song would be at all. All 5 musicians, the Queen Quintet and Bowie, started playing their respective instruments. Freddie Mercury played the piano, Roger Taylor played the drums, John Deacon the bass, Bowie played the synthesizer, and Brian May on guitar, of course. While they're jamming, John Deacon impetuously began playing a catchy bass riff that seemingly came out of nowhere. The riff was not used in the rough Feel Like track, what they started the session with. As Queen's co-founder Roger Taylor tells it, Deacon, who everyone called Deke, kept playing the bass riff over and over. 6 notes of the riff were the same, with 1 note a subdominant 4th down. The guys loved it, but they broke away from the studio to get a bite to eat, and upon their return, Deke had forgotten his riff. How they recovered the riff so that they could continue developing their experimental arrangement depends on who you talk to, e.g. the inevitable Mandela effect. Roger Taylor said that he refreshed Deke's memory on the riff. John Deacon said Bowie created the riff. However, David Bowie takes no credit, insisting that the riff was invented before he arrived at Mountain Studios. Brian May vividly remembers Bowie reaching over to Deacon while he was playing his bass, trying to recapture his riff, correcting Deke, scolding him, saying, "No, don't do it like that," and Deke responding, "Excuse me, I'm the bass player, this is how I do it." So a lot of different stories there. When the dust settled from the train wreck, Queen and the Thin White Duke came up with an instrumental track that was all spontaneous. And Queen thought that they would call it a night at that point. But Bowie was still wired with medicated excitement and wanted to keep after it. He told the band to press on, trusting their instincts and breaking away from conventionalism. Imagine that with David Bowie. David was insistent on taking an avant-garde approach to building the impromptu track. He was certain that something would become of it if they just stayed the course. Bowie told each band member to go into the vocal booth at the same time without listening to what anyone else was singing, vocalizing the first thing that came into their heads, including words or just human sounds, regardless of their meaning. David Bowie was adamant that he and Freddie should not hear what the other person had sung and to just blindly swap verses. What Freddie recorded was wordless scatting, with a series of dee-da-days and da-da-da that became some of the most memorable expressions of his entire career. David Bowie, on the other hand, belted out sentences with strange syntax, pressure, pressing down on me, pressing down on you, no man asked for. Under pressure that burns a building down. The exercise created a cut and paste feel when the studio crew attempted to organize what had been recorded. It's kind of like what Michael Stipe did when R.E.M. was recording Murmur. When the gang finally departed deep into the night or very early in the AM, they left with a rough mix of the jam and jumble session, provisionally naming it People on Streets because that specific line had been sung in the recording. Bowie soon wanted the title of the track changed to Under Pressure, another phrase that was sung in the mix. He also made a demand in the face of producer Reinhold Mack that he be present at the mixing of the record. Actually, Freddie Mercury had to hurry back down to the studio to help mediate between Bowie and Mack before things got too heated. There was even talk of David Bowie trying to block the song's original release. Rock's iconic chameleon, colorfully manifesting his reputation as a forceful artist to work with. Freddie Mercury, who was also notorious for imposing his will in the recording studio, challenged David Bowie's bravado in the vocal booth, actually. Freddie disagreed with Bowie's direction and he pushed for more structure. So can we just pause for a moment and relish in this moment? Freddie Mercury and David Bowie in a creative incubator together. Tell me any two artists from this century that could come within a solar system of those two magicians of artistry. What majesty. Bowie and Mercury, they actually met 12 years before Montreux when Freddie fitted David with boots while working at a shoe outlet at London's Kensington Market. During their initial exchange in '69, Bowie's career was booming with Space Oddity, a #1 single in the UK that year. This is ground control to Major Tom. But it wasn't until the following year that Farrokh Bulsara, the young man that helped Bowie find the right pair of boots, legally changing his name to Freddie Mercury. Bowie had changed his name from David Jones to David Bowie in '66, as most of you probably know. He wanted to avoid people confusing him for Davy Jones of the Monkees. Back to the story in Montreux. Brian May recounted that the two music titans They're also fiercely battling over the final mix of the song. The head-on collision between Freddie Mercury and Bowie is rivetingly captured on the a cappella versions of the song that can be found on the song's original video. Ironically, though, Freddie's nonsensical scatting and Under Pressure, resulting from David Bowie's unrelenting just let it out crusade, is one of the most elegant and truly magical moments of the rock improv. And Freddie's Why Can't We Give Love One More Chance, tagged as verse 3, is classic Freddie Mercury. Why can't we give love that one more chance? David Bowie's vocal performance in the track's cadenza is the poetic icing on the cake, if you will, since the lyrics, such as they were, primarily came from the mind of David Bowie and his insatiable pursuit for artistic innovation. This is our last dance, this is our last dance, this is ourselves under pressure. This is ourselves under pressure. It's truly remarkable how Bowie's unscripted lyrics somehow culminated in a cohesive prophetic conclusion, as if the whole affair was predestined to be an undying 20th century epic instead of a wild astonishment, if you will. Fittingly, Under Pressure comes to a close with the finger snapping of all 5 Hall of Fame musicians who were responsible for the creation of this extemporaneous masterwork. A perfect pop song that leaves you awestruck and really in tears. How can the heart take such a sensational performance? It scarcely can, really. Soul-strengthening, mind-rapturing. It is one of the true musical masterpieces of that spectacular year of 1981, or any year. Released as a single in late 81, Under Pressure shot to #1 in the UK. But in the US, the growth of the song stalled at number 29 on the Hot 100. I've never understood how it could stall at 29. It doesn't add up. It's the 8th wonder of the world, really. I mean, regardless of its chart position, fans and rock historians rightfully held the song as one of the greatest collaborations of the rock era. By the way, the #1 song that week was Physical by Olivia Newton-John. It would spend 10 weeks at #1. Could it just give one of those weeks to Under Pressure? I think it could. Regardless, though, I mean, this track could have easily never materialized, or it could have been swept into obscurity from the cutting room floor. Certainly makes it one of the most fascinating. Its magic was unleashed when our hero of heroes said those fateful words, "This is stupid, let's just write one." Amazing. Under Pressure was included as a cut on Queen's 10th studio album, the 82 album Hot Space. What is your favorite part of this song? What is your favorite vocal or lyrics? Tell us in the comments section below. I want to hear from you about that. Let's talk about it. Prior to the unplanned jam session with Queen in Montreux, Bowie had dropped his Lodger LP in 79 and Scary Monsters and Super Creeps in 80. Very cool, interesting offerings, but neither record sold particularly well. A year after the release of Under Pressure, Bowie began working on a new album, though, that would be the biggest commercial hit of his career with the LP Let's Dance, released in 1983, selling well over 10 million units around the world, and really showing the young bucks of the 80s how it's done, with 3 major hits, including the title track, Modern Love, and of course China Girl. Bowie elected not to perform Under Pressure in any public forum until the 1992 Freddie Mercury tribute concert, where he performed an amazing rendition of the song with Annie Lennox. You know, she sang Freddie Mercury's parts. John Deacon's addicting tongue-dancing ditty in Under Pressure has become certainly one of the most recognizable pop culture jingles. The September 2005 edition of online music magazine Stylus singled out Deacon's bass riff as the best in popular music history, and it captivated a massive generation of new fans when it was unabashedly sampled as the hook for the mega chart-topping pop smash Ice Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice in 1990. Vanilla Ice has been coy in the past about sampling the riff, but in an interview that I did with him, he was quite open about it, actually.
When I was going through the records of my brother, I saw that Queen record, man, and I was like, man, this group is funky, and they rock, and every single song is just so much passion bleeding through that record. And I found this one that they did, David Bowie.
Yeah.
With David Bowie,
Yeah.
Wait, I gotta hear this. As soon as that riff came in, ding, 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 I was hooked.
Regardless of what people say about Ice Ice Baby, it is an iconic part of my coming of age life, and Vanilla Ice put the song back on the front stove, really, as many people rediscovered the brilliance of the Queen and Bowie masterful track, and many discovered it for the first time because of the riff.
Ice, ice, baby.
There's also a memorable moment, if you guys remember, when Dennis Miller trolled Vanilla Ice when he played Saturday Night Live in '90, as the controversy soared on the use of the riff. After Vanilla Ice performed Ice Ice Baby on SNL after a commercial break, Dennis Miller, who usually opened his Weekend Update segment with Layla by Derek and the Dominoes, he opened it with the original Under Pressure by Queen. Talk about trolling the man. Under Pressure has been used in numerous films. It was 40 Days and 40 Nights in 2002, The Girl Next Door in 2004, and Grosse Point Blank in '97. The use in Grosse Point Blank is actually one of my favorite uses of a song in a movie ever. It's just perfect. John Cusack, of course, involved in quite a few great movie music moments, if you will. Of course, the most famous where he's holding up the boombox with In Your Eyes blaring. We've talked about that. But just as powerful to me is when Queen and David Bowie's song brandishes the perfect moment of a scene where Cusack is portraying professional killer Martin Blank in Grosse Point Blank, where Martin is at this class reunion with his old flame played by Minnie Driver, where he's struggling with...
Your problem, part of the thing that's making you so miserable is the angst over killing a lot of people.
Martin has a moment where one of his classmates hands him her baby, and he finally understands the meaning of life. It's just the perfect song for that moment. Gets me every single time. It's also a huge part of the successful musical We Will Rock You. I wish they would have included this story in the biopic Bohemian Rhapsody, though. I could totally see someone like Alexander Skarsgård as Bowie opposite Rami Malek, having a creative tussle to recreate that classic duet. To me, Under Pressure has always been the perfect example or perfect reminder of being empathetic and compassionate. It's not a song as much as it is a mirror of human reflection. The endless passion of the two leads, Freddie and Bowie, in perfect unison reminds us of that human frailty that exists. And in this divisive world that we find ourselves in right now, amid political battles, endless pandemic, cutthroat competition, and cancel culture, Under Pressure is such a welcome alternative. As Freddie pleads with us in verse 3, can't we give ourselves one more chance? Why can't we give love that one more chance? I don't know, I got an idea. Why don't we turn off the news, stop listening to politicians, and give heed to inspired songs like this one, especially when they both sing this part. Love dares you to care for people, to care for each other. Kindness. It's not too late. Love dares you to change our way of caring about ourselves. Freddie Mercury and David Bowie, they prove something that we've always known. Music is the great equalizer, the greatest of uniters. All you need is love, let it be, I can't get no satisfaction. The times are a-changing. Respect. Won't get fooled again. What's going on? How soon is now? Don't stop believing. Under Pressure. These songs and others like them, they light a fuse within our soul to fight for what's right, to stand for something, to care for each other. And now more than ever, it's time to give ourselves that one more chance. Compassion, forgiveness, understanding. Under Pressure by Queen and David Bowie. Truly a song for our times. That's why it's number one in my heart. What about you? Under Pressure. I want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the Rockstar Vision Company. I wear these all the time and I love them. Get your own pair with your own signature look. You choose it. You see how you look before you even order. For less than a vinyl record, you can do that at Zenni.com. I'll tell you, love you guys. Leave us a comment below about this song, about Queen, about David Bowie, and your favorite part of the song. I really want to hear that. If you like this video, I do invite you to subscribe to be a part of this celebration of music, to get a shirt like the one I'm wearing, or to get Queen, or even Bowie's music on vinyl, or to get a record player to listen to it the right way. Click on our Amazon links below, and check us out on Patreon to be one of our insiders. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe out there.